Hey guys, what's up? Today we're gonna take a look at 10 overlooked RPGs. Games that are a bit underappreciated and that people overlooked for whatever reason. Now there's gonna be some indie RPGs out there, but most of the games in this list are JRPGs. So let's begin! Number 10. Dusk Diver. This is an action RPG from Taiwan. I didn't think of it as an RPG before, but somehow now I do. Yumo lives a normal life in Shimending, but one day she gets caught inside a portal that's basically a parallel dimension of the city. Chaos beasts are slowly trying to rip through the boundaries between both worlds, so after acquiring powers, it is her job to stop them. So you'll be going back and forth between both dimensions. In the real one, you can run around town where various shops are positioned, including NPCs, and there are also, of course, side quests. Yumo works in a convenience store where most of the scenes will play out, including character development. But to enter the other dimension, often you'll need to find special items in town required to unlock the next stage. Once you do, Yumo will get inside to perform an entire mission fighting enemies and leveling up. Combat is like in a 3D beat-em up with good controls. You gotta mix light and heavy attacks to create combos as in building chains. It's pretty intuitive, and often you need to defeat a bunch of enemies in order to proceed. Now, you don't have party members here, but some of Yumo's friends can act as summons. You can summon them to execute a skill even while you're performing a chain combo. After filling the special gauge by doing damage, Yumo can access D-arms, pretty much transforming temporarily in an overpowered mode. Bosses are epic here and quite challenging, so be prepared to grind every now and then. This is a really good game, which is very overlooked and underappreciated, despite already having a direct sequel. That one has stronger RPG elements, but the balance is all over the place and sadly, I cannot recommend it. Definitely stick to this one. Number 9. Soul Blazer. This action RPG was quite unique for its time, and it may have influenced Dark Cloud 1 and 2 as well as others. You play as a divine warrior that, by orders of the Master, are sent to restore the world after being destroyed by the evil spirit Death Toll. Nothing but dungeons and monsters remain out there, so it'll be your job to find trapped villagers and parts of different villages to restore them. You do that by fighting enemies or merely by exploring through the 6 large regions available, finding their souls. Every time you find something or someone, this little scene will take place, but you'll be taken back immediately to where you were. By finding a couple of portals, you can return to the current village you're trying to restore. Here you can talk to people, which is important since often they're involved in some story puzzle to let you progress with the game, and also to unlock different areas needed to restore something else. You can also buy items, but you can only take one with you, meaning if you die, it'll restore your whole HP once. As you progress with the game, you'll find different spells for your spirit companion, making it more useful since at the beginning it definitely sucks. There's a trick to hack and slashing enemies here. You gotta be careful where you stand to avoid getting wrecked by them or surrounded. It's a challenging game, and the bosses are freaking brutal. You will be forced to learn how to sidewalk in 2 directions to avoid attacks or to get closer temporarily to hurt them. It's definitely a test of patience. This is a really good game that can be addictive thanks to its variety in gameplay mechanics. Restoring things or people just feels awesome. I think it's overlooked because people paid more attention to its brothers Illusion of Gaia and Terranigma by the same developer. Number 8. Mega Man X Command Mission. I haven't talked about this game in many years. It's a turn-based RPG available on PS2 and GameCube. A bunch of mavericks discovered an island with a mine full of force metal that can be used for evil in the wrong hands. So X forms a team to go after them and stop them. Recurring characters return and new ones join. It's a good story considering it's a spin-off of the Mega Man X series. Gameplay is a bit traditional, but without an overworld. Instead, you'll have a base of operations and go into several different parts of the island to explore and fight enemies. But every area you visit is practically treated as a stage. Random encounters will be there as you explore in 3D, Battles are played in turns with up to 3 characters at your command. Each has their native weapons and can be used both regular attacks or skills. Everyone also has a hyper mode that can be used to temporarily increase their powers. Eventually, a final strike skill can be executed by the 3 party members to attack enemies or bosses together. There is no job or class system here, but every character specializes in certain areas like healing for example, and they can all equip force medals to add different types of buffs during battle. This particular mechanic is extremely important since it can drastically alter the outcome. I'm serious, the game's got some nasty difficulty spikes that can be averted depending on your levels, characters, and of course the force medals equipped. It's a really solid game, surprisingly engaging, but it's overlooked because not many people know about it, and most of the ones that do have kind of forgotten about it. Number 7. Atelier Sophie 2. This is a direct sequel released a couple of years ago on Switch, PS4 and Steam. It is necessary to play the first game to fully understand this one, and you'll be surprised to know this is one of the craziest Atelier games in the series. Sophie and Plakta get separated by a bizarre portal that takes Sophie to a different world. It seems she has traveled to the past or to another dimension's past or... yeah, I told you it's crazy. Heck, you can even travel to certain ruins or places you find inside some portals and tears in the air, as Plakta herself calls them. Anyway, it's weird sci-fi story aside, it's also your usual comedic, light-hearted fan service Atelier game. The fan service in this game is something else, let me tell you. You've got your home base with the cauldron where you can synthesize from the recipes you learn. Sophie or Plakta can do it, or even together, but only one of them knows how to synthesize certain things. And they do it in this strange looking board where you gotta position the elemental attributes of several items being synthesized. The better you position them, the higher the quality or effects you'll get. You also have a big town to explore with NPCs and a few stores here and there. At the bar, you can accept fetch quests like in any other Atelier game. No time limit exists in this game for anything, but there is a night and day system, as well as a weather system. You can alter the weather with certain items and the enemies and materials change. Battles are played in turns, in the average Atelier way, including the assist actions which allows one ally to take another's place for damage. It also serves to switch characters between battle. I love the graphics, the animations and the visuals in this game. It's honestly freaking beautiful. Not too many people know the original Atelier Sophie got a direct sequel like Ryza did some years ago, which is why it's incredibly overlooked. Number 6. Shidan the Wanderer, Tower of Fortune and Dice of Fate. This is one of the many games in the series, officially known as the 5th entry. Most games are sadly exclusive to Japan, but this one made it first as an enhanced port of a DS version we didn't get. It was released first in North America on the PS Vita, later released on Nintendo Switch and Steam. As in any game of the series, you control silent protagonist Shidan, accompanied by his friend Koppa, the talking ferret. Yeah, I know. Anyway, this is like the Ys series. They're all connected and take place in the same universe, but each title is completely standalone with a self-contained story. In this one, the plot focuses around Shidan and Koppa wanting to beat the mysterious Tower of Fortune, where an entity resides that can alter fate. So you visit the past, present and future towers, also helping other characters with different interests. All of those characters can be party members and accompany you during your maps. Yes, it's a roguelike with randomly generated floors. One of those where if you move, the enemies move too. So basically fighting in a real-time but also turn-based combat. A plethora of weapons and armor can be found just lying there, and the more you fight with them equipped, the more they'll also level up. But there's also a hunger meter, and you'll have to consume food, also lying around sometimes, to keep going. Thankfully, HP will always gradually recover as you keep exploring, but if you get hungry, it'll stop. Various enemies and sometimes NPCs will be roaming around. Shidan can only attack in 8 directions adjacent to him, but also through items or spells if you have some. Having party members mean you'll have to walk around to get them in a nearby position so they can also attack, but the more allies you have, the more difficult it'll be to have them attack. However, it's also better to have allies, since this is a really challenging game. Yep, you know them. You die and it's back to town at level 1, all money and items gained lost. But if you succeed in beating an entire stage, you will also go back to level 1, sure, but you'll also retain your money and items. Despite its punishing nature, this is an incredibly addicting game, overlooked because, well, only a handful of the series has been localized throughout the years. Number 5. Grand Gills. A grid-based strategy RPG from a small Philippine studio available on all modern platforms nowadays. Eliza is the captain of a guild that's suddenly attacked by some kind of sect. Eventually, she and her mates discover that this sect could very well spawn a war between nations at any time, so naturally they set out to stop them. For a really small game, it's got very interesting narrative and writing. Story and characters are one of the highlights of the game. You'll get a bunch of allies here, but only 3 can participate in battle. Everyone can move on grids, but action points are required for everything. Your characters will get 5 every turn. Moving costs 1 point. Attacks, buffs, debuffs, and spells also cost points, and they're selected in the form of cards, even though there can be ones that will cost 0 points. As a result, sometimes you'll use several cards in one turn, or maybe just one. Your deck will shuffle every few turns the more cards you use in battle. You can also shuffle it if you want to at the beginning of each mission. This isn't a walk in the park, and grinding will be required every now and then, but it's not that hard, and there's also difficulty settings. Fortunately, there are side missions you can take on whenever you want. As the game progresses, you unlock new cards, but also new passive abilities. You can customize your deck whenever you want in the menu, under the maximum capacity of course, and you can also use money to buy more cards. However, characters will automatically unlock more slots to equip newly acquired passive skills as the game goes on. You know, this game isn't exactly overlooked, it's definitely an obscure hidden gem more than anything, but I really wanted to review it again. I loved it and I definitely recommend it. Just remember, it's a low-budget indie RPG that's based on a successful Kickstarter. Also, try getting either the PS4 or Steam versions. The Switch one has a lot of technical issues. Number 4. Wild Arms 4. Meet the most overlooked Wild Arms game. The alleged black sheep, but only within the 5 main titles. Yeah, not counting the wasted potential that was the spin-off Crossfire on the PSP. Anyway, despite being the worst out of the 5, it's still a very solid turn-based RPG. People kinda reject it for being the less Wild West of them all, considering it's a bit more sci-fi than the others. You could say this is a coming-of-age story, since you control younger characters such as the protagonist Youth. He gets caught up trying to rescue Yuli, who was abducted by the army upon invading his homeland. Alongside 2 drifters, yeah, classic Wild Arms term, the 4 heroes will travel the skies but also the wasteland of Filgaia to fight the army. Anyway, dungeons, areas and the like await you with tons of puzzles, a key characteristic of the series. As always, random encounters are present, but the battle interface is quite different from its predecessors. You got these hexes now, some with elemental attributes. At the start of every battle, characters and enemies will appear at random on them. But of course, you can move around them at any time, even if there's another ally nearby. Everyone's got their regular skills and of course their arms, which need to be reloaded every few turns, except for Rachel with the big sword. But yeah, taking advantage of the elemental grids is the key to winning here, as you may have guessed. It's definitely an underrated and overlooked game, still exclusive to the PS2 though. A small trivia here, the PAL version is full of errors and glitches, surprisingly being rare and expensive nowadays, more so than the NTSC version. Number 3. Frontier Hunter, Ersa's Wheel of Fortune. an indie Chinese action RPG that's basically a Metroidvania. It was announced in 2022, an early access demo was released on Steam in 2023, and finally the full game came to all modern systems exactly 1 week ago, except for the Xbox. But it's overlooked because nobody seems to have played it or cared about it. Big mistake. You play as Ursa, a captain in a crew aiming to explore unknown territories after the Empire was defeated. It's a direct sequel to a roguelike game called Tower Hunter, where you also control Ursa, but that is a Steam exclusive and I haven't played it. You don't need to play it to understand this one though, thankfully. 2 more girls will be playable in the game, such as Ciara, who thinks of Ursa as her big sister and is strangely obsessed with her, but in a very funny way. Despite being a serious plot with interesting narrative, it's also full of comedy beats and great fan service. The other girl you play as is a spoiler character. Anyway, you'll have a base of operations which you can come back to at any time using the many teleporters you'll find in every area or dungeon. Interactions will be there, side quests which are mostly fetch quests, stores like equipment, healing items, or a kitchen where you can buy recipes and ingredients are also here. The food you cook is obviously used as temporary buffs. Really helpful during boss battles as they'll get ridiculously hard halfway through. These have multiple HP bars, but by doing enough damage or certain attacks, you can break their shields and stun them temporarily. You can switch to any of the 3 girls at any time and also call them for a few seconds to aid you in battle. All 3 of them can equip different types of weapons, but only 2 can be used on real time. Same with the magic spells, which can do a lot of damage or help you solve some of the puzzles. Whatever the case, the game also includes difficulty settings, normal or easy only. There's also a magic core system here. Enemies drop them and you can equip your weapons, armor and accessories with one of them, adding different buffs in these grid-based icons. Back to combat and exploration, controls are fantastic, there's platforming involved but it's great, combat is amazing, movement is fast, visuals are gorgeous, pacing is great, interface is quick. It's honestly one of the best 2D action RPGs I've ever played. Number 2, Bahamut Lagoon. Of course this game is overlooked. It never left Japan, but a couple of fan-translated versions have been out there for years. It's a grid-based strategy RPG and it's simply excellent. You play as Bu, a silent protagonist that acts as the captain of a rebellion against the Grand Bellows Empire. You see people live in the sky here in continents called lagoons. In one of those lies the kingdom of Kana, invaded by the Empire, killing the king and kidnapping Princess Yo-Yo, the only one who can speak with the dragons aside. I know, Princess Yo-Yo, yeah, what a terrible name. Anyways, I was saying that she's the only one who can speak with the dragons aside from the Emperor. But anyway, the game's a traditional styled RPG despite being a tactics game. You will visit many lagoons, each with its own town, where you can occasionally talk to people, allies, buy items, equipment, etc. But you'll also have a base, which is your own ship. In there you can do the same, and it's where most of the story will progress. Now, this is a game where you'll have several characters in groups, but you'll only be able to control the assigned leader of each. Still, it is indispensable to equip every single unit of each group with the best equipment available. Don't worry, you'll get a crap ton of money in this game and you'll barely run out of it. However, every group will have a dragon fighting by their side. Just like your characters, they gain experience by defeating enemies, but you can't equip them. Instead, you have to feed them. That's right, and you can feed them anything! Anything, man! Obviously, feeding them weapons and armor will increase certain stats, while items will increase others, and so on. You can feed them as much as you want to with no limit cap. However, dragons cannot be directly controlled in battle. Once a group's turn is over, they'll act on their own based on 3 simple commands. Go, come, and wait. Go means they can go bunkers against any enemy in the map, come means fight the nearest enemy, and wait means doing nothing. This is the best and the worst part of Bahamut Lagoon. They can be really useful in battle and also act as aggro units, especially since enemies also attack in groups and have a lot of HP. But often they can mess up badly, do stupid things and get themselves killed. It's infuriating at times, but thankfully, This game's on the easy side of things. It doesn't get hard until the very end. And yes, all of your groups, as you may have noticed, can execute one ranged kill per turn, but if they make direct contact, they'll enter this turn-based battle screen. Here you choose each character's action in a basic menu, and that's it. A very creative battle system for its time, combining strategy with turn-based. Like I said, this is an excellent game, and therefore it is strongly recommended. It's honestly an insult that Square never bothered to localize it. Number 1. Trails in the Sky the Third. Yep, the third entry in the Sky trilogy, which could also be referred to as a spin-off, which is the reason why many people overlooked it. Another reason is because it's only available on Steam outside of Japan. Fan-translated versions of the PSP and its remaster on PS Vita exist though, but it still takes place in the same universe as its two predecessors. However, the protagonists are no longer Estelle and Joshua. Instead, we've got Kevin Graham and Reyes Argent, two agents of the Septian Church sent to investigate a secret dimension known as Phantasma. Of course, all playable characters from the previous games return here, and you can take anyone with you to explore. Not a traditional style RPG this one, the large majority of the game will take place inside the dimension, which is a huge tower with many different floors. This game is basically an epilogue similar to the answer in Persona 3, so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. And despite not being amongst the best of the best Trails games, it's still really damn good. Everything else is in like most Trails games, including the turn-based system with strategic grid movement, unique skills known as crafts return, as well as S-crafts, which are the badass powerful attacks once a character's bar is filled up. Arts return, of course, as well as the equipable augment system with spells, buffs and debuffs, elemental attributes that can alter the flow of battle and exploration. But one thing that stands out about this game is the door system. Several doors will be found across the tower, most being optional. Some even include backstory to a lot of characters, including some dark and disturbing scenes for some of them. It may be one of the darkest titles in the series, as also secrets of the Septian Church and the holy artifacts are exposed. Terrific game here. I personally recommend the fan-translated PS Vita remaster, but if you can't play it, there's always the official good old Steam version on PC. Alright guys, those were 10 overlooked RPGs. I still can't believe that Square never bothered with Bahamut Lagoon. Damn, like why, man? It's such a great game, right? And yeah, we can all agree we desperately need a Trails in the Sky trilogy remaster. Maybe Exceed will come through one day. Maybe. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!